Breaking news. President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, has agreed to be interviewed by those investigating possible Trump-Russia ties. We have a statement from his lawyer now saying he would do so as long as he had assurances against unfair prosecution. The Wall Street Journal earlier reported that he would do so in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Jessica Schneider has this statement here, and Jessica is live on Capitol Hill. Jessica, obviously, we just talked to Senator Angus King in the Intelligence Committee. He said, obviously, if this is true, it would mean General Flynn has something very important to say. What exactly is he saying?
Well, his lawyers are the ones doing the talking right now, Aaron, and they have just released that letter, a statement. I reached out to General Flynn's lawyers. I actually talked to them yesterday. Interestingly, those lawyers told me that they themselves, not General Flynn, had in fact been talking to the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. So, of course, now it's coming out that General Flynn may have something to say. In their statement tonight, they say that General Flynn certainly has a story to tell, and he very much wants to tell it, should the circumstances permit. However, the lawyer not exactly commenting on these reports that General Flynn will in fact testify before the committees, saying that out of respect for the committees, we will not comment right now. But then again, at the end of this statement, a little bit of double talk as well, saying that no reasonable person who has the benefit of advice from counsel would submit to questioning in such a highly politicized witch hunt environment without assurances against unfair prosecution. So his lawyers there leaving the options open a bit, not exactly clarifying whether or not General Flynn will in fact testify, despite the reports that we're hearing. So a lot of uncertainty right now, but I have been in touch with the lawyers. They say they're not commenting on those reports, but perhaps leaving the door open, Aaron.
All right, Jessica, thank you very much. I want to go straight to our legal analyst, Paul Callan. Paul, when you hear this, what do you hear? Let me just read these last two sentences from General Flynn's lawyer. He is now the target of unsubstantiated public demands by members of Congress and other political critics that he be criminally investigated. No reasonable person who has the benefit of advice from counsel would submit to questioning in such a highly politicized witch hunt environment without assurances against unfair prosecution. It sounds, of course, as if he is saying, I'll come if I get immunity.
Yes, it sounds like he's saying that, and there's also a secondary meaning to that, which is if you don't give me immunity and you force me to appear, I'll assert the Fifth Amendment, which, of course, would be a very, very striking and startling development by the former national security advisor to the president. So this is a big, important move by Congress if they're going to try to subpoena him.
So when the senator on the Intelligence Committee told me earlier in this program that if this is true, if he was requesting immunity, and of course we now have the statement indicating such, that he has something very important to say. General Flynn himself says, General Flynn, or his lawyer, I'm sorry, says he certainly has a story to tell. When you put those things together, and you see him saying that he wants immunity from prosecution, what do you take away in terms of what he has to say? Is it fair to say that he thinks whatever he has to say, somebody would want to prosecute him for it?
You don't often hear criminal defense attorneys say, my client has a story to tell, unless that attorney is looking for immunity for his client, and he does have a story that will implicate somebody else. Now, who the somebody else is, of course, we won't know until he testifies. So that's an important statement. But there's another thing that could happen here, Aaron, we have to pay attention to, which is how will the president and the White House react? Will they assert executive privilege and say that conversations that Flynn had with the president are protected by executive privilege? And we could wind up with that being pursued in the U.S. courts. So I don't think you'll see Flynn testifying very soon. I think this is going to blow up into a pretty complicated issue.
All right, Paul, stay with me. I want to bring back our panel: Jason Miller, Amanda Carpenter, Keith Boykin, David Gergen. David, you think this is hugely significant?
It's a big story. The clouds are darkening over the White House tonight. I think the most reasonable interpretation of that statement is that he wants immunity in exchange for talking openly about and telling his story. And you don't do that. We just had Senator Angus King on. You had him on, as Senator King said, people generally don't ask for immunity unless they're worried that what they will say will make them vulnerable to prosecution.